Sarge. Give people a few minutes here to get in. I'll send off a few tweets here. Get this ball moving. Hope you all are having a good Friday night. We're going to have a fun discussion here about economy and prepping for a recession and that kind of thing. I will have you all done by 8:30, at which point I highly recommend you head on over to Silver Husky's channel for the bin show. I will be over there, and then later on tonight we have I'll be heading over to Rogue Preparedness's channel for her show. She said she's going live streaming later on tonight. Hey Robbie, how's it going? You are the first. You are the first. I see a couple other people popping in right now, and appreciate everybody. We'll give everybody a chance to get in here and get settled. But while we're waiting, right? So those of you who are already here, how long do you think a recession typically lasts? So my sound might be down. Yeah. How's my audio? Am I okay, guys? I was having a little problems getting set up with some equipment tonight, and I got a storm going on behind me. If it starts flashing again, I'll open up the window so you guys can watch it. If my signal suddenly drops, thank you. Appreciate that. Hey, Midwest. If my signal suddenly stops, we'll just call it a night. Don't forget, over at 8:30 is the bin show over at Silver Husky. And then sometime later on tonight, Rogue Preparedness will have hers. So I'm going to just go ahead and get a couple more tweets out here and contact a couple people who are waiting to get in. And then we'll get going. Anybody got any good plans for the weekend? What are y'all doing? Yeah, and how long? And while we're waiting, how long do you think without looking it up, how long do you think the average recession is? 8 to 12 years. All right. Anybody else? And I am having one little problem here. Try that again. Got a little signal problem. I usually use a laptop separately for chat. It's just a little easier. If you guys have done live streams, you know. Spiky weed in my yard, 5 to 8 years. Okay. So the average time for a recession is actually, believe it or not, only 11 months. So if we can prepare for 11 months, then, you know, we're in pretty good shape. Oh, cool. Baseball tournaments. Nice. Nice. Digital prepper, I'm glad you're here. I was actually going to ask you, do you have any videos, or are you going to talk about at some point? Yeah, it was much shorter than I thought too. And I think that's realistic. Like if you want to like set a goal to prep for a year of recession, I think for most people that's something that's achievable. So it gives you, again, you know, we try to keep a little bit of hope here, right? It's not always about the zombies and the aliens and the and the robot uprising. But digital prepper, I was going to ask you, are you going to, or have you already done a video about the Amazon sidewalk program that's coming and the Comcast grid that's coming? Hey, Prepared Mentality, so good to see you. Stay ready. That's right. That's right. We should always be ready. So I started reading about these tonight, and I'm not going to go into it here because it's way outside my wheelhouse. I am not a tech person. Digital Prepper is a tech person. So if you guys aren't already following his channel, I highly recommend you do. And also on Twitter. But I'm hoping that you're going to cover those issues because somebody sent me some material on that tonight. And I thought it's kind of interesting, and I'd like to learn a little bit more about it. So I'm hoping that you do get to talk about it. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, so 11 months. If we were to say to each other that, okay, we know that a recession is coming in a few months. We've got all the telltale signs, right? And again, not financial advice here. I'm just a YouTuber that's, hey Steve, it's good to see you. I'm just a YouTube here to entertain you, right? So I will teach you some things that I know a good deal about, like gardening and foraging. Sometimes it's just theoretical discussion. Sometimes I'll bounce you over to other people because I try to stay in my lane and not talk too much about stuff that I don't know a whole lot about, which is why I just bounced that question over to Digital Prepper. But if we knew a recession was coming in a few months, right? And let's say theoretically that it is, okay, that there's a lot of, let's say theoretically there was a lot of things going on, like unemployment was real high. People weren't really enthusiastic about going back to the workforce. Stock market is just kind of stagnating. I'm seeing that it's not as spooky as I think. Okay. Okay. All right, cool. I look forward to hearing more from you about that. So those of you who were just catching it, I was asking him about the Amazon Sidewalk program and what his thoughts on that are. So what kind of things would you start to do when the recession hits? Those, so he's talking about, Midwest is talking about, you guys know I had some keto review videos last year, and I have a video up there about, there's an ice cream that basically tastes like a fluffernutter, and it is the best tasting ice cream you'll ever have, at least for me. If you don't know what a fluffernutter is, it's basically peanut butter and marshmallow fluff on a sandwich, and like that was a big staple of my childhood. Super cheap. It's actually marshmallow fluff and peanut butter are both shelf stable, so good preps too, actually. And you know, something to think about. But if we knew 3 months down the road that a recession was probably coming, what kind of things would you all start to do now to get ready for it? Right, you got 3 months to start to prepare. So most of the time, and definitely please give me some ideas in the comments here. But most of the time, when I'm talking about this kind of thing, I tell people, you know, be paying down your debt, be putting away savings. You know, you want to get to a point where you've got somewhere between 6 months and a year worth of salary savings, so that like if you had a loss of job, you can cover yourself, cover your mortgage, cover your rent, cover your groceries, cover your electricity. At least those basic stuff, right? Like we can all cut out a lot of stuff. You can start to make some sacrifices on the kind of food you buy, your entertainment, your discretionary spending, things like that. So you can cut that down from what you normally would need in your monthly budget. And you could even, you know, if you had to, start peeling money off of what you would typically put away from savings in an emergency. But you got to have place to live, right? Your bare basics of survival. You've got to have electricity if you live in a climate like mine where it gets to over 100 degrees indoors in the summertime, or if you live up in Canada where the temperature is going to get below 30 in the wintertime inside without some kind of heating source, right? And you got to have food. So what are some, you have 3 months to prepare, and let's say that you're just an average person, you're not a prepper. You know, basically you've got a couple weeks worth of groceries in your house. What are some of the things that you all think you would start to do, or you would recommend for a friend in those positions to do? Last year, I spent the entire sand. That's awesome. And so when you do canning of stuff out of your garden, that stays good for years. Hey, Angie, it's good to see you. Sometimes I'll even, like, I haven't done it last year. I didn't do any of it, but in the past I've done, if you see a good deal at the grocery store, like mushrooms are on sale, like a really good sale. Like sometimes I've seen them for like 99 cents for a carton. Yeah, you guys do have the best weather. I think between you and Hawaii, Steve, those would be probably the states that have the best weather. My sister used to live out in Southern California, and I went out and visited. It just wasn't for me, but the weather is fantastic. There was other things I didn't care for about it. The highways were like bananas for me. 7-lane highways, just like for somebody with a little bit of anxiety, that was not the best situation. I suppose I'd get used to it if I lived there. So I'd get those cartons of mushrooms and throw those in the dehydrator, and then I would throw those in sealed cans, right? And that pretty much would last forever. But you can do that, like if you see a real good sale on tomatoes at your farmer's market or the grocery store, anything like that. You know, if you're not able to grow that much in your garden, then you can throw them in soups. You can rehydrate them and use them in salads, sandwiches, anything. You guys probably can't hear that, but we are getting a deluge. Finally, we went like 2 months. I don't know if you'll be able to. Can you guys see that at all? Not really. We went like 2 months without getting hardly any rain, and it was so dry here. So to hear that it's finally, we're finally getting some rain, it is awesome. What are those salads you speak of, bacon? Hey, you got to have some salad, man. You got to have some fiber to get that squirrel moving through the system. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, and actually, it's funny. My wife is a vegetarian, and I'm an omnivore. So part of my prepping takes into account her diet, right? So that's why a lot of the times why I'm looking for stuff with foraging is like I need to kind of know what my options are outside of my little garden here and my fruit trees and my fruit bushes and stuff like that. Push came to shove, I think if anybody's starving, they're going to eat whatever they can eat to survive, and true for me as well. But you can take a while before it gets to that point, right? And by the way, if you've never tried vegetarian food, a lot of times I eat the same things that she's cooking, and it is awesome. So the only thing is, for me, I gotta have some protein in my body. I tried to go that route, and it didn't work for me. I gotta have protein. Nutritionist, right? No, I didn't know that. I covered fiber a long time ago. Okay, no, I didn't know that. Thank you, Bacon. All right, so if we're thinking not long-term financial preparedness, right? So now we're talking about just like you got a couple months to plan for this. My strategy would honestly be different if I was an average person and I wasn't prepared. Used to motivate my family and friends to get squared away. Yeah, that's right. That's right. I would say if I was somebody, hypothetically speaking, that wasn't a prepper, and I started getting on board, and I figured I got 3 months left to get my things in order, I would not concentrate full train effort on paying down debt. I would pay my debts because you don't want to compound your problems in a recession. So I would keep making payments on my debt, but I would also be, with that short timeline, be throwing a little bit more into cash savings. Personally, okay, that's personally how I would handle it. I probably, for a short-term situation like that, I probably would be not putting as much into precious metals as I do right now. Steve, I want to think that. I feel like people are already losing that. Like, I don't want to get too much Debbie Downer here, but you got to have carbs too and fats. Yep, I agree with all that, Bacon. That's actually good topics for another day. I've been trying to find some carb sources out in the wild. All right, but back to Steve's comment there. My fear is that, when this thing started, I think a lot of people were getting on board and we saw a spike in interest in preparedness topics. I feel like people are already getting away from that. And like I saw comments with this gas shortage situation on the East Coast from people that I know, people that I'm friends with. 6 months of expenses. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But let's talk about that in a second, Midwest. That was going to be my next point. I'm so glad you brought that up. Yep. Hey, Titan Preparedness, good to see you. That's okay. I appreciate you popping in. Let's talk. Shoot me a message on Business with Sarge, businesswithsarge@gmail.com. So we'll talk. Also, guys, I'm trying to get StreamYard going so I can start to do some guests and stuff like that. I just haven't had the time to play with it, so it's one of my goals to be able to get used to that. But I think people are losing interest. I think I saw comments during the gas shortage where people were like, this is, like people were just filling up their gas cans. Like, we all should have some gas cans, especially for me who lives over here in Hurricane Alley. Like, it's just, that's like one of your first most basic preps here. And I saw people online shaming people for doing that. Like, obviously, I'm not talking about the plastic bags, but just like taking some common sense approach, like, hey, there might be a gas shortage here. I still got to get my butt to work. My employer expects me to be there. Okay, I'll check it out, Bacon. Thank you. So, like, if there's a possibility that it's going to be a 2 weeks, 3 weeks before I can get gas again, I'm filling my extra things, right? I don't have the ability to fill a 50-gallon drum in the city here. That's a whole nother issue, but maybe somebody's got a farm. You help the ones who want help. Yeah, that's a good point. You're right. I probably shouldn't even be wasting my energy on the people who are like making fun of people who are taking the right steps. That's a good point. All right, so we got, I would continue to pay your debts, right? So make your credit card payments, make your mortgage payments, obviously make your mortgage payments, obviously pay your landlord. I think a lot of people got them. A successful slave. I think a lot of people got themselves in trouble here with this like rent moratorium thing, and a lot of landlords are getting screwed for the last year. That's not fair. That's just my opinion. That is not fair to the landlords. I think they got a raw deal out of this whole thing, and Brave browser for it and just use the work table. Chrome. Okay. Okay, I'll check it out. So under no circumstances, if you have the capacity to pay those things, my personal opinion is pay your rent, pay your mortgage. In fact, I think it's good advice to do that first, and your electric, your water, and then now let's talk about those three before I get to the next thing, which would be food, medicine, and like hygiene, cleaning things. Food and medicine and hygiene stuff, there's a way to prep for that even on short term too. But if you have the ability to get 1 month or 2 month ahead on your mortgage, that buys you a little bit of time. Maybe you just take that as cash, that's fine, whatever you're more comfortable with. I personally like to be 1 month ahead on all my bills, not just for preparedness situations, but if I just forget, like I've done it once in my life where I forgot to pay a bill and got the late charge. I think everybody does it at least once in their life. Thanks, Tyler. I appreciate that. It's good to see you. I try to stay a month ahead, and I think that's good practice. You can keep that as cash though, and just like don't touch it. Like, you've got a month or two. If you can do 3 months, if you can do more than 3 months of your mortgage, rent, electricity, and water paid back, boom, your shelter's covered, right? Which is one of your big survival needs. Food, medicine, hygiene, and cleaning products. So that's a no-brainer. This is one that we usually kind of teach people about, the new people that are new to prepping. As you go grocery shopping, start putting back a couple extra for each one, right? So if you're a fan of baked beans, I like baked beans. Instead of buying, whatever you need for that week, get 1 or 2 more cans, right? And if you think that the situation's escalating, maybe to the extent that your budget allows, you start escalating that. So maybe you're getting 3, 4, right? How much should we have back? Well, that's going to depend on your storage capabilities. Ideally, if somebody's going to stay with preparedness, we want them to be thinking about 6 month or a year supply of food if they can store it. So then you have to start thinking about, you guys know, your shelf stable foods, right? So that can be your pastas, that can be your dried oats, that can be things like honey, that can be your canned goods, which will stay good for a very, very long time. It can be, beyond your 6 months or a year, then you start thinking about your freeze dried stuff like Augustin Farms, and so all those ones that you see advertised on the commercials on the prepper channels like For Patriots and things like that. There's tons of them out there. Mountain House tastes really good and is actually really affordable. Augustin Farms is really affordable and tastes okay. They last forever. Like I've got stuff that the expiration is like 30 years. You can add in MREs, but that's expensive. And again, we're talking about a short-term situation, like somewhere between 3 months and a year. Rotate your supply. Good points. Buy what you eat. Yep. I do agree, buy what you eat, but also I recommend buy some stuff that's not necessarily your favorite. So if you're MREs, make sure you're adding that fiber too if you're eating MREs, right? The peanut butter in the MREs is good. The peanut butter is good. The cheese is okay. I would eat it, right? Gotta go. Thanks, Robbie. I appreciate you. Yeah, and they're hard on your digestive system. You definitely want to supplement with some garden stuff. My garden's right back there. That's where I'm pointing. Some garden stuff or some foraged berries and leaves and things like that. Stuff to kind of help things move through. They're deficient in protein. Hey, Jessica, it's good to see you. So if somebody... So, all right. So Steve and anyone else who did military service, is it true that the gum and the candies in there have something in there that helps with stopping the, the lack of fiber issue. Is that true? That there's something in the gum that helps to move things through the system? That's what I've heard. And that military energy gum, by the way, is really good. Civilian, I buy that off of Amazon, and it's like basically just caffeinated gum. I keep that when I'm driving in my car and stuff like that. You know, especially if I'm doing a big road trip when I'm traveling, because I am a huge caffeine addict. Like I drink a lot of coffee, but if you're road tripping or whatever, you don't want to stop every couple hours for a restroom. So that military energy gum is pretty good. So again, we're going back to, you got 3 months warning. Average recession lasts 11 months. Okay, so that's doable for most people. You know, everybody's help clean our teeth. Don't know if that's true. The trick is you drink lots of water. Always good to be drinking water. So if we knew a recession was coming in 3 months, and we knew it was going to last about 11 months, that would be my strategy. That would be my strategy if I was a non-prepper. Would be have some cash savings back, continue to pay all your debts, maybe not as aggressively as I would if I was thinking long term. Start putting as much cash savings back as I can. Try to be ahead a couple months on the your rent, your electricity, your water. Hey, Cash and Coins, good to see you. Food, medicine, try to get ahead of that. If your dog, we talked about this a little bit the other day on the mental health live stream that I did, but talk to your doctor. If you have medicines that you take regularly, ask them if they'll prescribe in a way, like if you take, I'll just give you an example. A lot of times people are taking an antidepressant, 1 pill a day, right? But their doctor can write the prescription so that it says dispense 90 or whatever. And so you can, to some extent, if your doctor's willing to do it, you can stockpile some meds and things like that too, especially if it's a life-saving med like heart medicine, cholesterol medicine, seizure medicine, diabetes medicine. You guys know what I'm talking about with that stuff. Hygiene stuff, I treat that the same way as I've heard, is that Selco? Selco said that lighters actually became one of the best trading and bartering commodities. That is interesting, yeah. And, of course, vices are too, like cigarettes and alcohol and things like that. People are always going to want that. Yeah, thanks, Cash and Coins. Appreciate it. I treat the hygiene stuff and the house cleaning like there's certain things we buy all the time. Dawn dish detergent, I love that, and it's multi-purpose. I can use that for garden uses. If you ran out of hand soap, you can use Dawn. You could wash your clothes with it if you needed to. So we always have tons of Dawn stacked up. And that was interesting. That was actually one of the things that was hard to get last year, at least at the beginning of the lockdown. Yeah, and I definitely bourbon. Yeah, I'm not gonna tell you that I might have a couple special bottles put back, but I might have a couple special bottles put back. Bourbon's good stuff. I am a fan of silver and gold for long term, but for what we're talking about today, for a short-term recession, we have a couple months to plan on it. I probably would dial back my silver and gold purchases, because for the short-term situations, cash and your food and your medicine is absolutely going to be more important. Gas, guns generated. Yep. Cash and coins. Silver and lead. Yep. We got all those things covered. The ammo situation's been really hard to tolerate because, you can find it, but it's just prices that are really hard to stomach. So I don't know. I hope that comes around at some point. I'm missing one. Oh, okay. So then now, once you've got all that stuff kind of covered with your plan, house cleaning stuff, whatever you use for that, store a little bit extra of that. Things like, toothbrushes, shaving cream, just get a couple extra so, you're covered for a few months if you don't have income coming in, or the supply chain's disrupted because of a recession, things like that. But that's going to bring me into the next part here, which is secondary sources of income. If you've ever been laid off, it is a horrible, horrible feeling, and we have great systems in place like unemployment and stuff to help people out when they're trying to get back on their feet. But yeah, they do get overlooked. Yeah, I don't want to ever run out of soap. I don't want to run out of shaving cream, to be honest. I mean, I can shave without shaving cream, but it's not a necessity, but it's definitely a nice comfort item for me. Wouldn't You want to have as minimum debt as possible? I agree. Definitely don't want to go into a recession. Like if they start downsizing jobs and downsizing businesses and things like that, you don't want to be in a situation where you already owe the landlord a month's worth of rent or your mortgage company a month's worth of mortgage because you're running behind. Because their tolerance for that is not going to be great. A lot of people lost their homes in 2008, 9. A lot of people are going to be homeless this year as this eviction moratorium wears off. There's going to be a lot of evictions coming, and the homeless number is going to skyrocket. And that's a crisis that is on the horizon that is going to affect every neighborhood in the United States. I would be thinking about your other income sources, right? So that can be, maybe you operate some kind of side hustle. Maybe you're skilled, you know how to fix cars. So think back to 2008 when we had the Great Recession. What was one of the businesses? I want to ask you this for a second. Think back to 2008 for a second. What were some of the businesses that you all noticed were going under? What businesses did you notice were dying down? I'm gonna come back to that as your comments start coming in. But having a side hustle, looking around your house, if I had to start selling some things, what could I sell? Well, I've got some comic books. In a recession, they might be hard to unload. I don't know. I could sell stuff out of my garden. There's probably people who would be willing to buy that. I could sell my foraging skills like, hey, you know what? For $10, I'm going to take you out to the forest here and I'll show you some of these plants so you won't need me to do this every time, and then I can use $10 to buy fuel, things like that. Real estate was a mess. One of the things that we noticed was used car lots and new car lots were going under like crazy. Thank you so much, Steve. Appreciate it. Have a good night. Have a good weekend. Used car lots and new cars were going under like crazy because nobody was buying new cars. Everybody was keeping the vehicle that they had. So you know what business thrived? Auto mechanics. So if you're good with fixing cars, that's a marketable skill, right? Maybe that's recession proof. I honestly don't think anything is recession proof. I think there's things that are recession resistant, right? So what's recession resistant? Your first responders, police, EMT, fire, auto mechanics actually turned out to be one. Probably your people who are good at fixing things in your house, things like that. What's the first thing that people cut? So what's not absolutely not recession proof is all your luxury stuff. People who do hair and nails, people start going longer time periods between getting their hair done or going to the barber, getting their nails done. People were spending less and less time. Skills are always going to be good in hard times, especially stuff that other people need. Landscapers, that's one that's going to take a little bit of a hit in a recession because people start saying, you know what, I spend $50 a month, $50 a week on my lawn. I could do that myself, right? Yep, absolutely, because all those things are necessities. Well, just about. And maybe if you're somebody who's good with that stuff, but you're not licensed, you might be able to work out some deals too. The skill, yeah, you're right. The skill level and the skill set required to fix some of these cars is going to be different. But I'm talking about the start of this conversation was if we knew a recession was coming in the next 3 months, what would you do to prepare? But yeah, electric cars are definitely coming, and they're going to be getting better and better. I actually, if they can figure out how to put charging stations in more places and have them charge up faster, I'm not opposed to having at least one for our household. I don't see us anytime in the near future being able to go completely to electric cars, but we'd be okay with doing one because my wife doesn't have to drive a lot. Her work is all within a 5 mile radius pretty much. So what other income sources could you get in? Look around. What could I sell? A lot of people who had a lot of tracts of land during the Great Recession sold off pieces of their land. That's kind of hard to do. It hurts right here, but maybe it helps them keep their farm, keep their home, stay in there until ride this thing out. Clothing repair. A lot of people out there that know how to sew and stitch and things like that. That actually might be a good, in a prolonged recession, that might be a good thing because a lot of people didn't do any clothes shopping this past year. And this wasn't even like a real recession. I didn't buy a new pair of sneakers until just recently. I went all of last year without buying a new pair of sneakers, and I usually get a new pair every 4 months. The batteries are an issue, and that's one of my big concerns because the batteries are good for like 5 or 6 years right now, and they're super expensive when they go. And if I'm wrong, correct me. I'm outside my wheelhouse there. I actually would be interested if they come up with I know there are electric motorcycles that look like a motorcycle, not a moped. I want one that looks like a motorcycle. And I know that Harley makes one. They're not really where I want them to be. But if they get that, again, the charging stations, how long it takes to charge them, things like that, I'd be open to something like that. It'd be kind of cool to have an electric motorcycle, There's definitely a place for it in my world, and there's going to be more and more of it down the road in the future. Early on, yeah. So how long do those batteries last? Really? Okay. That's interesting, Digital Prepper. Were they shipping though? Was that like companies like Stitch Fix and things like that actually were shipping to people? Medical. So let's go to medical. Somebody brought that up there for medical. So medical is one of those things that's considered essential to some extent. I work in the medical field, and I can tell you that I have been laid off. There is downsizing that goes on. They were shipping. Is that where they were doing a lot of their business in the past year? One of the big medical providers here in Charleston laid off several hundred people last year because they were concentrating, again, with what we were dealing with, they were concentrating on just emergency stuff. So it's recession resistant. It's not recession proof. And it's not uncommon when a recession starts getting worse and worse for a lot of those mental health programs to be looked at as this is something that we don't really need. They start downsizing. So it definitely happens in my world too. And it's amazing what things will be considered elective too. Stuff that you and I may think like that's not really elective. That person needs that. A lot of that stuff is actually considered elective. So that's what I would do, guys. If I was a non-prepper, I knew I had 3 months to prepare, and there was a lot of stuff that was looking like, I don't know, hyperinflation could be happening. Groceries are up 10%. Gasoline's up. Thank you so much, Cash and Coins. You have a good Friday. Go spend time with your family. Family is the most important thing. Gasoline, I appreciate that. Thank you. Gasoline's going up. Electricity's going up. People don't want to go back to the workforce. Stock market's kind of up and down. People are looking to cryptocurrencies, and those are down, and they're making a very slow recovery. We got trade issues with other nations. I don't know. What do you guys think? Could those possibly be indicators of something that we should be paying attention to? I don't know. I'm just a YouTuber here who, is here for your entertainment purposes, and we're just talking theoretical stuff here. All right. So before I wind down, a couple more things I want to say. And I appreciate everybody's ideas here. Everybody gave really good, fantastic feedback. I the UFO video that I did the other day. It's interesting. The news was pushing it again tonight. They just keep pushing this story about these UFOs. Yeah, the restaurants around here are having a really hard time. The restaurants around here are having a really hard time getting employees to come back. And not just restaurants. I was talking to, see, I want to protect information here. A friend of mine who has a small medical practice was telling me that their employees don't want to come back. They're going to ride out because they're enjoying the extra unemployment that they're getting, and they're going to wait until the last second. It's not necessarily the smartest play. I get it if you're making a little bit more, but having been laid off in the past and trying to fight my way back into the workforce, and by the way, I have, and even then I had a very good resume. I'm very, very employable. I had a hard time getting hired because I was competing against everybody else was trying to get hired at the same time. So if I was unemployed right now, I would be trying to get ahead of that curve. Everybody who's waiting 60 or 90 days until that money runs out are all going to be competing for jobs at the same point. That puts it in all the power goes to the employer to be as choosy as they want to be. People to quit because people are making people. Yeah, that's another issue too. And I would like to talk about that in a separate stream. I think that one thing that came out of this last year is that a lot of jobs were proven that you don't really need to be in the office for it. And we can actually there's like this mentality like, well, if I have to go in, you have to go in, you know. But the thing is, we can actually do a lot of good by moving some of those jobs to out of the office, right? So you can, number one, you're going to cut down on the traffic on the road significantly, as I saw when I was commuting in this past year. Yeah, that's a possibility. Yeah, if they've got some money coming in cash, I get that. But if they're going to be competing for a job, again, everybody's got to do their own thing. You don't have to listen to me. I'm just a silly YouTuber clown, you know. I'm just telling you my experience being when I was unemployed, how hard it was to get rehired because everybody was looking at the same time, and how competitive that is. But you know, in this past year, there was a lot less traffic on the road. That was really nice. That lowers everybody's insurance rates. I actually just watched something on the new. Hey, Unicorn Stackers, good to see you. That this past month, as everybody's being brought back into the workforce, car accidents are higher than than the last few years because everybody forgot how to drive or something. I don't know, but that means guess what? Everybody's insurance rates are going to go up. So when you allow people to work from home, you actually help everybody because our insurance rates go down, less pollution on the road, less air pollution. It's good for the environment, less traffic, less aggravation, less road rage. People are happier. People work better when they're happier. So there's a lot of jobs that really we proved could be converted to that. And I will say, personal opinion, should be converted to work from home, at least some of the time. Yeah, Bacon, it's dangerous, man. I have a pretty long commute, and it's it's scary. It's scary. And oh, Unicorn Stacker, we were talking about like if you had 3 months to prepare for a recession, if you knew a recession was coming, what would you do in those 3 months to prepare? I'm going to start winding us down here because I do want people to head over. If you don't know, Silver Husky is a friend of mine. He's a great channel. He does the binge show with Director of Awesome. And that, so you just go over to Silver Husky's channel at 8:30. And it's always a good time. He does they do a little bit of chat and banter. And I think Guido Stacken's going to be on there tonight as a guest. And then they do, it's called a bin auction. And I can't explain it. You got to watch it, but it's a lot of fun. And then later on tonight, hey, Jessica, to work from home when I return back to the work. I hope you can too. I hope you can too. That would be awesome. And then later on tonight, I'm going to be heading over to Rogue Preparedness. I don't know what her topic is tonight, but I talked to her earlier through Messenger. And she said she would be streaming later on tonight. So that's where I'm going to be. I hope you all are going to have a great, great weekend. If anybody has anything you want to plug right now before I close down the shop, I'll give it a minute. And while you're typing in, if you have something that you want, a video you got coming out you want to tell everybody about, please do. Always, I recommend that y'all check out each other's channels, because everybody who comes to my live streams, almost everybody here is a content creator. And everybody here has great channels with great content. So I do recommend you guys get to know each other and support each other. And this is what it's all about. YouTube is not just, it's not just a search engine. It's not just an entertainment platform. It's also a social network. And what do I got coming up while I give you guys a chance to type in your stuff? I gotta work on some editing. I've got a video that's just driving me crazy. I may actually just scrap the whole video. It was a foraging one, but it's giving me a hard time. So if I scrap that, I'm gonna have to record something new. I may Sunday play around with StreamYard, so you may see me come on for a quick stream. I don't know. I'll definitely be back on the air on Tuesday at lunchtime, and then next Friday again for the typical Friday night pre-prepper party show. All right, you guys, thank you so much. I appreciate everybody. Have a great weekend. Make sure you're prepping. Make sure you're thinking about the possibility that we could be heading into a fall recession here. I hope not. I am happy to be wrong. I will eat my humble pie on camera if you guys want me to eat my humble pie on camera, but I would rather have you prep ahead and be like, you know what? I got a couple months money saved. I'm happy for it. Thank you, Sarge. Keep planting your seeds. Keep stacking your silver. This is Prepping with Sarge. Have a great weekend, everybody.